What is happening, people? Today we're going to be looking at this mountain pine or Mugo pine. So let's get into it then. So as you can see, I've got this tree from Perrywood. Labelled as a mountain pine, but it is a Mugo pine. I'm not sure which cultivar. Seems to have quite short needles. I think most Mugo pines do. I know it's not the golden variety, the one with the yellow needles. Although some of these needles do have a little yellow tinge, but I think that might be either an issue with growing or maybe a fungal problem. We will see. So this is going to be an initial styling. One of my main reasons why I bought this tree is I haven't got many pines, but also I saw the Nabari on this to start with, and of course I know most people are going to look at this like that isn't really a Nabari, Rick, what you on about? But for a tree that's, 16, 17 pound, a pine, to have decent-ish taper, there's no graft mark, as well as a bit of Nabari to start with, that's kind of decent material. So always with pines, because they're not like a deciduous tree, same with any conifer I suppose, but pines can be a bit harder, especially at this size, to see what's actually going on. So you want to make sure you're actually checking where buds are. So I know that I've got some interior buds here. I'm probably going to be cutting back to those. As you can see, loads of buds all over the tree, so it is quite healthy. I'm not too sure about the soil mix. It looks quite wet and damp. But with the cutback that I'm about to do, the roots probably won't be taking up much water anyway. So, and we are moving into spring and summer, so it isn't a big deal. So just while I'm cutting back to some buds here, these are my brand new knob cutters, concave. So I went for a stainless steel one this time, and they cost a bit more than the, I don't even know what they are. They're painted, they're anodised, I don't know what it is. The black tools you get. They cost a bit more than that. But that's just because the last set of black ones I had, I bent them. So I was looking for a bit more strength. And they're also easy to clean as well. So I will be slowly moving most of my tools over to stainless steel. They just seem to last a bit longer, and they're really sharp as well, actually, which is pretty good. So obviously the main issue with pines, especially at this size as well, is they grow from like the same kind of part of the tree, which is called a well. You'll get 4 branches that come out north, south, east and west, sometimes even more, from one point. And you can see that with the buds that I've got at the end of these branches. There's 4 or 5 buds on the end of every branch, and obviously in bonsai that's going to cause inverse taper. So the first cutback is more of a structural cutback, and this isn't, again, I say it in nearly every video, the tree won't look perfect by the end of the video. It isn't. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'll make this 17 pound nursery stock look like a finished tree. Not by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just going in here plucking out some needles so I can actually see the tree better. Some of the undergrowth as well. But yeah, so this is going to be a major cutback. You don't want any more than 2 points of growth from any part of the trunk, and the trunk itself is considered 1. So if you've got the trunk and 2 branches coming out, if you've got the trunk going up, and then you've got 2 branches coming out from the same point of that trunk, one going left, one going right, or maybe both out of one side, that's going to cause a swelling in that area. And unfortunately that means with a pine, I'm going to have to cut off roughly 3 branches every time I get to one well, only leaving 1 branch in that point. Now this is going to be like a Shohin size tree, I'd imagine, or even a Mame eventually. With that, I do want to keep a leader, I do want to keep one strong, and then I'm going to be doing bud selection as well, just making sure that this year when these buds push, before any more energy goes into these buds, and obviously the needles that would then come out of the buds, I'm just making sure that there's only 2 buds at any point. You know, work on evergreens and pines is a lot different to deciduous. A lot of deciduous trees are kind of alternating growth patterns, so you'll get a branch come out on the left and another branch on the right, and they're all spaced out. You know, pines especially like to throw these wells of growth, and obviously as like a garden tree that wouldn't be an issue, but as a bonsai it will be an issue over time, so we have to correct them kind of things. And I like to do that on the first kind of instance that I see the tree. So things like needle removal as well. I'm removing needles here from the trunk. Now essentially you can get buds out of any needles, especially on a Mugo pine. You know, some pines are better at back budding than others, and the reason for leaving some needles on is that nearly every needle can be a bud eventually, and you can get a branch coming out at that point. Now left unchecked, a pine will just grow as it wants, obviously, which is going to be whorls, and then from them whorls it keeps on extending and extending, and eventually you either get leggy branches, a bit like my stone pine. I've got a video on a stone pine that was quite leggy that I'm leaving for now. So apart from getting leggy as well, it will just keep on going in whorls, so every single internode is going to be a whorl. And really for the size of tree that I'm after, either Marmay or Shohin, the internodes are quite big on this already. Now if I was going to grow a bigger tree, the internodes on this aren't, you know, the growth is quite compact. But I'm actually after a littler tree with this one. So you see me here, I'm removing needles from the bottom of the branch as well, and that's just because I'd rather the top needles get the sunlight. This is part of styling, right? And when you come to style a pine, you would pluck the needles from underneath the branch and then you pull the tip up at the end. And that's just most efficient for the tree, because otherwise you're leaving needles on which are obviously taking up nutrients that aren't getting proper sunlight because they're on the underside of a branch, and those needles usually die off anyway. So you're just trying to create the most efficient solar panel to begin with, and with this one I'm hoping for some back budding over this year going into next year. So I'm quite liking the slanting kind of side of this tree already. Obviously I've got the Nabari there on the right hand side of the tree that kind of grips the soil, and when you talk about design as in you're wanting to lean a tree a certain way, either informal upright, leaning, or semi-cascade, whichever one you want to look at. Ryan Neal discussed this in a video, I believe it was on his cascading pine that he uploaded recently, and you have to think about the base of the tree, right? So if the tree was 20 times, 100 times larger than this, let's say, if it's a leaning tree, it wouldn't be standing up unless there's going to be roots that are holding it up on the opposite side of the lean. So if you've got a root base which looks like it can hold a tree up at this kind of angle, then you can push the apex off of centre. If you haven't got that, then eventually the apex would need to come back centrally, back over the root base, or over the base of the trunk. Otherwise it just looks unbalanced and it looks like it's a tree falling over in a pot. Now obviously those are quite, I'd say deep designs. I mean deep as in, if you're a new starter to bonsai, you don't really have to concern yourself with that kind of stuff. I wouldn't even say I'm intermediate or knowledgeable at all, but obviously this is the kind of thing that bonsai professionals will be talking about and how they style trees. And although I'm not trying to copy anyone's trees, there's some fundamentals in bonsai, which is stuff like whorls that are going to cause swelling, inverse taper problems, and then design itself. So now I'm just trying to feel around with my fingers and just try and move things with my fingers rather than obviously wiring and unwiring, it's a bit of pointless. situation to be in. I'm kind of moving branches around and thinking of where things will be if I did wire them down, and if I moved them, and what kind of silhouette I'm after. I'm just removing some more needles here from the interior of the branches, so near to the trunk. And that's just to create a little bit of age on them branches eventually, and as well, I wouldn't want any back budding on them areas because they're too close to the trunk. You know, I'd kind of want the branches to branch out from here and go into secondaries and then tertiaries from there on. And some more needle plucking here, just so I can see a bit more of the trunk itself, the trunk line, see where it goes to. So we are now in repotting season, or just about there. I mean, we've had a bit of a full spring down where I am in Essex, basically south of England. We've had a bit of a full spring, which we kind of get every year, where there'll be a week where the weather warms up quite a lot. And I mean, the other day it was 14 degrees in the day and 10 degrees at night, and then it comes back down again. So a couple of weeks later. So a couple of weeks later, the temperature drops back down again to kind of winter temperatures, and you can kind of get a late frost. So something always to be mindful about when repotting. And I've actually got a few videos of a couple of repots that I've done, and what I'll have to do is obviously protect them when that cold weather does come. So now you can see I've stripped this back to kind of really minuscule branches on the bottom there. And that's just because I'm not too happy with where the branches were placed and if that caused inverse taper eventually. And even for the minute, I think I've got 2 branches there which come out of about the same place on the trunk. So eventually one of them will have to get corrected. But you've also got to be aware of how much you're actually taking off the tree as well. So I didn't want to take it to the point that it's only got one kind of branch left on it. And for taper reasons as well. I don't want these bottom branches looking too thick compared to the trunk. So now we move up into the top of the tree. And the decisions here are a little bit easier, just because I've already made some decisions down below. So design wise, I've got a branch off to the left there, which will probably be like the defining branch, like the main branch. So I'm not going to stack another branch on top of that on the left. The next branch ideally would be on the right. Unfortunately, nearly all of the top kind of comes out from one place, so again, it's a whirl. There isn't much I can do around it apart from just remove most of the foliage there and grow it on from that point. So like here, the branch on the top left would probably be the new leader, and the branch on the right would then be a branch on the right. Now, so the back of this tree is bare for now, and it probably will stay that way until I can get either higher up on the tree, or if I get some back budding from the new leader, I can create a back branch there. The one thing I've always struggled with is where do you put the back branch. So, you know, I tend to start a tree with a defining branch on the left and then a branch on the right and then go for a back branch. But I'm not sure if I'm better off doing a defining branch left or right and then back branch and then another branch left or right, depending on the kind of style of the tree. And that's just further design ideas that I need to get more into. I'm just going to add a little bit of wire here, and this is just to make sure that the leader I want is going to be the leader, or the leader the strongest, let's say. So this branch on the left here has the bigger buds. It looks like it's got stronger growth, so therefore the tree's already kind of decided that that's going to be the stronger branch out of these two anyway, or out of the whole well that was there. So there's no reason for me to really fight the tree and try and make another branch the leader, if he's already kind of decided it. I kind of think bonsai is a bit 50-50. It's a bit of nature and a bit of me as well, so it's a bit of the artist putting their spin on things, but then you also have to go with what the tree wants, because otherwise you're just going to be battling and you'll end up with a dead tree probably. And again, this isn't like wiring as in, oh, this is me styling the tree. I just wanted to push that branch on the right down and out a little bit, just to take some energy away from that, and then push the leader up more so that gets most of the sunlight and becomes the new top of the tree essentially. And that is near enough his pine complete for now. I won't want to do any more work than what I've already done. I think I've cut off a lot. There's the damage cam. And the fun thing with Mugo Pines that I've been reading up on anyway, they can actually take from cuttings. Now it's usually best to do candle cuttings, which is when you let the buds open and needles kind of burst. Oh, awkward face. Yeah, you let the buds open and needles burst, and then you'd cut them, like you decandle it and then plant them. But I've heard that Mugo Pine is pretty good at air layers and all that kind of stuff, so it's a bit of a outlier for pines. So here I am just planting up cuttings essentially. See if I can get anything going for them. I always think it's worth a go, because if they don't work, I just put them in the bin anyway. When I say bin, it's a brown bin, you know, recycling and that. It's not just shoved in any bin. But yeah, we'll give them a go, and we'll see how they grow on, if they grow on. And it's going to sit there with the rest of my trees. So one final spin round here. And back to the front for now.